All right, guys, welcome back to yet another episode of Let's Assess. Me and AJ are back in, well, not black for the first time in history, but we're going to jump on here today. Haydays is super, super close now. Hunting season is super, super close. We wanted to hop on here, and for those of you guys who are riding Polarises or you're just in the industry, we are all wondering what in the hell is going on with Polaris right now. It seems like every other week throughout the summer we've gotten recall notices. We both ride Polaris. And so we just want to dig in, have a conversation. We kind of looked into a few things of what's going on with Polaris. And we just kind of want to talk about what the heck is going on. And is this going to be fixed by winter, or are we not going to be able to have warranty work done and sleds are going to be held up again? So let's jump right into it and assess.
Look, I don't want to talk. How you try and press the kid and really you was soft. Oh, you know
what's up, guys? Yeah,
you don't
welcome
know
back. I guess, first things first is this is not a ding against Polaris. We both ride Polarises. We both support Polaris and love them personally. So this is not a ding at them at all, but we just wanted to kind of tell you guys what we have found on researching it and, kind of bring it to the people what we got. So,
and I want to start, between all the brands in the industry except Yamaha, I think we all have years of experience on. Yeah. And we have current models in our families, we have current models of every manufacturer. So we're not just speaking from owning a Polaris. We're kind of going to compare that to, like you can see behind me. You can't, I'm too fat. But there's a Lynx behind me, 23 Lynx, and then there's a 19 Ski-Doo over there. So we're going to kind of bounce back and forth between manufacturers. And I just want to say that we are not speaking from, you guys don't know anything about the other manufacturers. We kind of do because we ride all the manufacturers.
Yeah, and then with my background being more of like sponsored by Artie Cat with racing and everything, that's who I chose when I first started riding in the mountains. So I have multiple Artie Cats in the family as well, being a 2019 and then a 21 and then a 22. So that's, we're speaking on all different brands except for Yamaha. And I think the Yamaha would kind of be in the same boat as the Artie Cat since it is pretty much the same thing.
A blue Artie Cat?
Yeah, exactly. I will just get that right off the bat. The Artie Cat, I have a notice right here. They have sent me one before. This is the only one I've gotten, and it is for the 2021 model. And it is about a ring groove in the top of a fuel line dampener that may cause fire, of course.
Do you think didn't that just come out right when Polaris came out with their recall on the fuel line?
It was this summer. June 16th is what it says. So midsummer is when this one came out. So it was very similar timing, I feel like. I don't have a date on these. But so, yeah, obviously that one I have seen. That's the only one I've gotten on the Artie Cat. We're speaking on about 2019 to present, probably more than likely on all this stuff. And then with Brent's stuff, that 23 Lynx and that 19 Ski-Doo, he's never seen a recall or even a service bulletin or anything come across his mail that way.
Yeah, and there could have been, but I haven't seen anything, and I feel like I would have seen something in the mail if there was a major issue with those.
Definitely.
Well, and on social media.
Yeah, it would have been on social media, you think. I mean, especially the way Polaris gets blasted about this stuff.
Yeah, dude, I feel bad for him sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, before I even got this notice on Artie Cat, I was seeing on the group chats on Facebook, like, hey, this is coming. What is this? So I feel like it would be out there. So first things first, on the 2023 Polaris snowmobiles alone, there has been 6 different recalls, and they are all stop ride, stop sales. And that is, I don't even know how many snowmobiles altogether that has been completely affected. But that's a pile of snowmobiles that's been affected. So this year, the newest SnowCheck was that they're guaranteeing shipping by 11/30, so November 30th, or else you get a $1,500 rebate. So a lot of this
November 30th.
Yeah, November 30th. Sorry. Yep. So that's a huge thing with Polaris, because right now they're in a stop ride, stop sale, so they can't even ship stuff or sell stuff because of some of the things that they got going on. What is it? The handlebars and then the fuel line on the boost, I think. and then
they
a
had
clutches on a 9R. We'll go over all of them here. But, you know, those major sleds that we all ordered are on back order, or not back order, but they're, you know, on that stop sale, so they can't even move them right now. So it's kind of looking pretty good for our rebate, I feel like, right now, honestly.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not mad about that. So,
yeah, until it gets here mid-February, you're going to be mad about that.
and I'll be pretty pissed.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's just dive into it. The first one here, a fuel line between the fuel rails that may leak on the Patriot Boost. It is a fire risk. There is 7,480 sleds affected with that alone in just 2023. I feel like that's, I mean, kind of outrageous, honestly. You know, I mean that, and I mean, you have one sitting behind us, and you haven't. It's not been fixed, I don't believe, right?
No.
And that's that newest one that's came out.
That's the thing, is so many of these recalls, it's like, in my opinion, coming from like a business background, is so many of these things are, and I'm not saying that this is the way with all the recalls, but so many of these things are so, the chances of this happening are 1 in a trillion. But the problem is because it's 1 in a trillion, they have to limit their liability and their risk to being sued. And so they end up having to issue these recalls, even though it's probably never going to happen to your sled. They just have to protect themselves, which kind of sucks.
It does. It really does. And especially when we get into some of these, they kind of say how many cases that there have been of it, and then the amount of sleds that's affected. And it's kind of like, wow, it's a pretty skewed number, you know?
Yeah.
So, but just like you said, it is, they have to do it, and they have to, you know, get that liability away from them. So.
Yeah.
Next one up on the docket is the primary clutch failures on 9R engines. And of those, 89 of 4,500 have failed so far. So I haven't heard of this, and I haven't had a 9R to experience it, but I'm imagining it's just, you know, spinning a little bit faster with a heavier weight, and it's causing a failure in the aluminum. Maybe let us know in the comments if you have one that has failed. I'm curious.
So the recall was issued because, was that the one where there was a risk of it breaking out of the plastic and hitting you?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's like the primary is like exploding, and then fragments are coming out of the body panels and then impelling people, I guess. Or that's the fear.
Dude.
Which I've had a clutch actually break the crank and then break the side panel off and go flying by me, and that was terrifying. So I can't imagine pieces of it. So that's a pretty major deal. You know, that's a serious thing. The next one, this is going to affect 2022 to 2024 snowmobiles, 650s and 850s, and they can have clutch failure. So this came out the same time as the 9R. So it seems like it's a clutch, an actual clutch that's failing, not just necessarily, you know, the 9R maybe spinning it too fast or anything like that. And this one said that it's 13,000 sleds affected, and they've had 99 clutches exploding, and that's just on 650 and 850s. So non-turbo, yep, non-turbo or not the 900. So, you know, maybe it is just a batch of clutches that was bad for those certain years, but it's kind of weird with that 22 to 24 on that, and then on the 9R being only the 23s. I just feel like there's something's funny there. I don't know why they would use an older clutch or anything like that on that 9R, or not beef it up or anything like that. So, but even on the 650s, you know, so obviously it's just a component failure that they got some bad casting or something like that, I think. Next up is, and this is in the same kind of realm of that, but 2022 models, 850s with electric start. They have the clutch ring on the back of the primary that the starter connects onto. And with that, there has been 4,600 sleds affected. And it's just, all they said was it's causing primary clutch failure. They didn't say it's exploding or anything like that, like the other ones, but it's just having a clutch failure. So I'd imagine that's probably linked in that same boat of batch of clutches, I think. So
Gotcha.
The next one is 2022 and 2023 Matrix and Pro models have excessive brake heat, and the throttle and if the throttle and the brake are held at the same time, it will supposedly catch on fire.
So that was an interesting one to me, because there were so many people on social media that was like, if you're holding the brake and the gas at the same time, you're an idiot. And then I was thinking I must be an idiot, because I feel like I'm braking and smacking the throttle a lot at the same time, like coming coming on a downhill and you have to go uphill.
Yep.
You're trying to build boost. You're braking. You might not be just pinching the brake and hammering the gas, but there's some mixture of that. And maybe I just don't know how to ride a snowmobile, but I was doing that a lot.
Yep.
And I never, ever had a problem, obviously. And then they issued some software type update where when you would hold the brake for a certain amount of time with the gas, it would cut the power, basically.
Yeah. It'd detune it, and then you'd have to like let off of everything, shut it off, and restart to get it to cancel out of that, which when I heard about that, I was not a fan of it. I don't think that's right. I think that's more of a hazard than the chance of a fire, honestly, in my opinion. I mean,
the small chance of a fire.
Yep. Especially with, coming from the racing background, I mean, we would have brake rotors glowing red all the time. I mean, every race almost that rotor would be glowing red. So, and we never had fire problems. This is a super weird thing. I don't know why they're taking this so far. And when they let this go out last fall, I was pretty disappointed with it, because that is one of those things that when you feel uncomfortable, if you just kind of drag that brake, it makes the chassis not want to like do any type of weird things. It kind of like holds things together. So that's something that, I mean, the best of the best snowmobilers in this world, they drag their brake. And especially for people riding turbos, that's something you have to do. Like you were saying there, you got to keep that boost built up.
Yeah.
But from kind of a number standpoint here, for 22s and 23s, that's 23,600 sleds that are affected by it. And there's been 164 reports of excessive heat, but only 22 fires. And that's one of those ones that, they made a big deal out of this. And then I feel like that's a pretty aggressive swing to have it detune itself and everything. And then out of, almost 24,000 sleds to only have 22 fires.
Yeah.
And, did somebody load it on into a trailer and it crushed the plastic, the belly pan into the rotor, or, what was the difference that caused that to happen? Or, is there something else that caused that fire? Who knows? But that just seems like a really low amount. I mean, 22 out of 24,000, that seems a little bit
But there
excessive.
again, dude, if it's 1 out of 22,000, they have to do everything that they can to limit their liability and limit their chances to being sued.
No, absolutely. And that's where we all have to be understanding and, just be thankful that, maybe if something mega does, happen, I mean, having a primary clutch explode, that's something pretty mega, and be thankful that they are maybe looking into this stuff, and then, no one will become seriously injured from it. So, or hopefully not. There will be a few, I'm sure, because it does happen. But the next one, and this is the most recent one that we all are, like, what the hell is going on? The 22 and 23 Matrix handlebar hooks. They're, reported to be doing bodily injury due to the hooks impacting the body during a crash. This is 29,090 snowmobiles affected, and there are 2 reports of injuries. So just like you were saying there, I mean, yeah, it only takes 1 or 2 to make them do something. But I mean, this is every single snowmobile from 22 to current. And I mean, they've already 24s that are showing up that have this same style hook in it. So it's going to affect us this year. And that's going to be a hard one for them to fix.
But it's like, how many people have been hurt by handlebars without hooks?
Well, that's just it.
It's a ton. It's like you smack your handlebars, hurt your ribs or whatever. It's like, dude, that's, in my opinion, that's part of the game.
That's part of it, and this is one of those ones that I think the industry as a whole, you guys let us know, but this is something that I feel like is, that's the chance that I take when I'm going out there. This isn't something that Polaris can do to make it any better or any safer or anything like that. I mean, sure, it's maybe a little too pointy, but it is what it is. I mean, if you just had the metal handlebar out there, that's pretty dang pointy. That could impale you pretty easy. I'd rather have a little blunt plastic piece out there, I feel like.
And that's the thing, dude. I feel like lawyers and people that are chasing this kind of, money from these manufacturers, it's going to turn this whole thing into, pretty soon we're riding rubber snow machines, because there's a small chance that you're going to get hurt on it. And obviously you're taking on that risk when you go out in the backcountry. But it's like, for me, before I started wearing knee braces, how many times did I cut my knees wide open on the running boards?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, but what are they going to do? Make them rubber? Make them have no traction?
Yep. No,
that's just part of riding.
You're going to have to have your mom wrap you in bubble wrap before you go out. That's what you need.
She wouldn't like that.
Yeah. She already doesn't, right?
Yeah.
So no, and that's just it. It's just sometimes common sense has to come into play on these things, I feel like, and this is one of those things where it's like, just what in the world are they doing? So those are the 6 recalls on Polarises that are in 2023 alone, obviously covering clear back to 2022's. Another one, this is number 7 that Polaris had on their website for 2023. This is a Polaris/Climb recall, and it is on the Avalanche probe A300.
Oh, I saw that.
The tip of the probe can fail. I just want to throw that in here just in case everybody, as you're getting ready this year, if you see that you have a Climb probe, make sure it's not the A300. And if it is, you can get on their website, fill out the form. They'll send you a new one or rebate you or whatever it is that they do with that. But make sure you do have a good, safe Avalanche probe in your pack. So just be aware of that one.
I wonder how it can fail.
I think it's a plastic tip, and when you pull the thing and it sucks it tight,
yeah.
it when it comes in tight, I think it breaks the plastic tip or something like that is what I read
The
on
probe I'm running is I think a Mamu, and it has a metal point.
metal pull point. in
It
the
cuts
tip.
through the snow really well.
Yep, and that's what I think a lot of them are. For some reason, they just try to make it lighter or something, I guess. But so that pretty much brings us to the point of we're just going to discuss what our thoughts are on why Polaris is doing this. What has changed? What is the effect? First one I want to dive into is I feel like personally just noticing this stuff is this is a pre-COVID versus post-COVID thing. I mean, I don't remember. Yeah, manufacturing flaw. I don't see any of this stuff happening, or I don't remember it happening pre-COVID. It seems like only during COVID and after COVID is when we started seeing this. And now that we're pretty much out of COVID here, like it is happening all the time. It's a regular event, it feels like.
I don't know. I feel like coming from a different industry, speaking on the automotive industry, there's a lot of that stuff that has happened with COVID. When it comes to when you have part shortages, when you have labor shortages, when you have all these shortages, your quality starts to go down. I mean, I don't want to get into why, but down the road, it ends up going down because you just have to accept what you can get instead of maybe having that high standard. The other thing is, just in today's world, it's completely different. Like these manufacturers, and obviously I'm speaking from an automotive background, that if there's any possibility of failure that can cause harm to one of their customers, they are going to cut it out. Because, like, for example, the Ford Explorer right now, I don't know why I'm going into this, but the Ford Explorer has this problem. You can't buy one, you can't test drive one, because certain ones with this 360 camera, which is made to be a safety setting, to be able to see and scan things around it, as well as the backup cameras on 360 view, they're failing. So now it's just simply a camera, as far as I know, but you cannot even drive them, because if you wreck, then you can sue Ford and say, your camera's failed, that's why I wrecked. So it's just a mess, man. I don't even know what to say about the whole, everything has kind of gone downhill. And I think in the automotive industry is starting to pick back up. But
yeah, but that's just, that's something that, you point out something there. I do not remember this stuff happening before COVID. Like, I do not remember silly stuff like this. Like, why is this all of a sudden the new thing that, I mean, you can sue someone over a camera failing, even though you're not even supposed to be looking at the dash, at that where it would display it. And the same goes with, the Polaris is like, why is it detuning itself? Why are they trying to detune itself from something that, like, yeah, if you hold the brake and give it throttle, of course it's going to create heat and it can catch fire. Like, that should be a common sense thing. Like, do not do that. If you leave your parking brake on, of course it's going to catch on fire. Like, that's the way it is. But, I just feel like, that's exactly what it is. But I just feel like I don't remember this stuff before COVID. It just has came more present, I feel like, afterwards. And you kind of hit on a point there that the quality of parts has went down. And I feel like that has a huge part in this. And especially seeing it with the clutch failures is the quality that they're having to, they probably had super tight parameters when they were buying stuff before, because they had 10 different people that were sending them specs, and then now some of those companies, died in COVID. They had to shut their doors, so maybe they only have 3 or 4 options to choose from, and the quality is just not there anymore. I feel like that has to be something talked about, that our quality of our sleds, we may have been at our peak in 2020, and then we took 3 or 4 steps
But in
backwards.
2020, if I recall this, I could be wrong on this, there was some, I didn't have a 2020, I had a 2016, but on the axis, there was some problem that would lock the pull cord.
Yes.
So there was I guess this is what I've heard, and this could be complete rumor, but there was one dude or one girl, whoever it was, that put one nut on every one of these sleds wrong.
Oh, wow.
And so every one that certain number of employee touched were recalled. And I remember going to the parking lots, and we would have an extra sled on the trailer. They'd be like, "Can we borrow it? Mine just seized in the lot." We're like, "Yeah, go ahead," but it shouldn't be doing that with 3 miles on it.
No, it shouldn't. And that's a good point, because I did see that when that happened on those axes. And it was, those recoils, they were garbage. They were, where it just, there's 5 or 6 that I knew that exploded on them.
So let me ask you this. We're seeing this with Polaris. We've touched on it's not happening on the BRP Arctic Cat side of things as much. Obviously, it still is happening to an extent, which is normal. They're never going to be perfect. But what do you think it is about Polaris that they're having all these problems? Do you think it's somebody... Oh, hiccup. Do you think there's somebody out there trying to make these failures happen that rides a Polaris? Or do you think, we were just talking about, they got a new safety department? Yep. What is it about Polaris that this is not happening across the industry as much, as not near as much as Polaris?
So I feel like there's 2 things. Those 2 things being, one of them, I feel like they might have a new safety department or something like that has started, or they became a bigger company. They've bought out so many different other Timber Sled and Climb and 509, all those companies. Since obviously with any business, as you grow, you have to add different departments. And as you grow even bigger, you have to take care of more and more problems. And it's expected that you take care of those problems, and then you have to have somebody there to take care of those problems. Now, those people have to justify their job in some way. This is how they justify their job. I would imagine that they are testing. There's more test riders that are finding these problems that work for Polaris. And I'd imagine that there is a safety department that is when they're reviewing what the test riders are finding, they're then deep diving it and trying to simulate that problem. And then if they can simulate that problem in a pretty easy way, I'd imagine that it just a stop ride, stop sale immediately right then.
Yeah. And I don't know, dude. It's BRP is a massive company though too.
Well,
and it's I agree with what you're saying, but it's think about in 2016, Polaris was still a huge company, and I'm saying 2016 because I had a 2016 Axis. It was absolutely perfect. But what I don't understand is back then they were a big company. BRP is a massive company. I don't know who's bigger right now.
Yeah.
But BRP is massive. They're in the water sports industry. They're in side by sides. Yeah, they're into
Boeing. Yeah.
They're into everything. Why are they not having these problems? And maybe it is a takeover of a safety department or something like that, where there's a dude that's he's a little bit more not as lenient, we'll say.
Exactly. And that's what I'm wondering, if there's just, and that's, I didn't reach out to Polaris to see if they would talk to us about this, but it was one of those things that I feel like, maybe we can bring another pod. I would like to reach out to them, or if somebody from Polaris is watching this, if you'd reach out to us, we'd love to talk to you about this, and then, put it out there to the people, what's going on. But that is kind of my speculation, is there has to be somebody in there that is pushing this stuff. Because otherwise, same BRP is every bit as big a company, I feel like, and they aren't having these issues. And are they just brushing them under the rug, or are they? I don't know. I don't know.
I haven't had a problem with the BRP product, but I haven't spent near the amount of time.
Yep. Well, but we haven't really had the problems with the Polaris either ourselves.
Well, yeah, I guess I haven't. Yeah. So here's another thing that I hear a lot of people talk about, and I know there has been. If you're someone who won't go to Polaris because of the recall deal, comment. I think that's interesting. But do you think you would ever jump brands off of a Polaris because of the recall situation? And like for me, I'm not really talking about like I might get hit with the hooks or my clutch might fail, but like just the whole deal of I can't get warranty work done. I can't, my sled's late or whatever. Would that make you jump brands?
Personally, the only reason I would jump brands is because something is better at this point. I feel like the Polaris is the best sled on the market right now, and that's why I will continue to ride them throughout their bullshit that they're doing right now. But it is frustrating. It is very
that's
frustrating.
The thing, though. It's like when you get a day off to ride, you want something reliable, but at the same token, you want the highest performing mountain sled.
Exactly, and
it's like for me, I'm not knocking Ski-Doo, I'm not knocking Lynx. I like them, but that sled right there is absolutely. If I could only pick one sled that I was confident on to go ride and I was trying to show out, that would be the sled with the Vogue tune and everything, because that thing was just completely flawless.
Yep. The runnability of it, that one specifically being a boost with that tuning, mine being the NA, those both were fantastically running sleds. They both have many miles and hours on them, and they did not flaw us one bit.
And we do not ride them easy.
No, they are
abused.
Straight into it. Yeah. And so motor wise, they've held up in that department, I feel like. And then chassis wise, it is the most predictable, and I'm not going to say easiest sled to ride, but with that predictability, you know what it's going to do, and it's not going to do anything too crazy to you, or you don't feel like your weight's too far forward or anything like that. Like that sled is balanced and predictable. And that is what, when you're riding a snowmobile, that's what you want, you know? I mean,
especially for what we do.
Yeah, when you're in the trees or when you're doing re-entries or hitting big jumps, you know, I mean, those things are the most important, in my opinion, because comfortability is what you need, and you got to trust what your snowmobile is going to do under you. If you don't believe in it, then it's kind of hard to go do that stuff. I will not knock BRP. They have a better motor package, I feel like, in the turbo department. I think they're refined with their turbo, and they're refined with their engine, and they are starting to work on the little things, like when you blip the throttle, the turbo back pressure will blow the snow off the top of your vents. Those are things that I wish Polaris would do. But nonetheless, the chassis has a lot of work, in my opinion. That chassis needs a lot of work to get me comfortable and
you raced Ski-Doo for how many years?
I did. I raced Ski-Doo actually growing up. That's what I rode. So I mean, from I'm gonna say 8 years old, probably clear to 15, 16 years old. So I mean, there was a good amount of years. I thought you
went back to Ski-Doo after Arctic Cat for a while.
I didn't. No, but once I switched to Arctic Cat, I stayed there for a while. So
well, yeah.
But now this is another thing we're gonna discuss, the two there, and Polaris is a Fortune 500 company, and I feel like this might have something to do with, you know, all these recalls coming out. Is the government behind limiting, you know, our use of these sleds? Are they trying to limit, you know, the freedom of us being able to ride them? Are they trying to limit the use of snowmobiles? What is there an agenda behind what? You know, since if you're a Fortune 500 company, you get your money, your funding through the government then. And then if you got that funding, are they trying to push an agenda just like Ford putting out the Pride trucks and stuff like that? Like these companies are smarter than to do that stuff, you know, same with the Bud Light thing, you know, like these companies are smarter than that. We know that. But for some reason, odd things like this seem to happen. So,
and they keep happening.
And they continue happening. So there's really only one answer behind what's pushing that. But my argument to that would be BRP is a Fortune 500 company, but they are in Canada.
I didn't know that.
I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I don't know if it's a worldwide thing, but that might be something too. I don't know. It's something that kind of intrigues my interest of, you know, why all of a sudden does it all add up? COVID, all the recalls, now all the other companies are pushing these agendas. Is that something that we're seeing with Polaris in our little industry that we love, you know? Is that something to be aware
I haven't
of?
heard a lot about the delay of new SnowChecks as much, because we're not you don't expect them in August, but I wonder if this happened in December, if they would push back or November even, if they would, instead of shipping those SnowChecks out, if they would keep them there. And like, I don't know if this is one of those deals where, because sometimes I feel like it's an excuse for them. They're just trying to get parts. They're trying to get labor. And so by having these recalls, it's almost like, this is why your sled's not on time. If we didn't have these recalls that are, we have to deal with for your safety, the sleds would be on time. I don't know, dude. There's so many moving pieces to this that I just do not know.
There is, and there's a lot of moving pieces to a snowmobile. I mean, same with an automobile, but think of it. There's a manufacturer making all those pipes. There's a different manufacturer making all the clutches. There's another manufacturer making the spindle. I remember one year on the Arctic Cat race snowmobiles, they were 2 weeks late to us because the person that made the foam didn't get the foam to Arctic Cat in time. They were 2 weeks behind on getting the foam.
Yeah, can you imagine that mess to build a snowmobile, how many parts there are? And if you have one part that's not in on time, everything's screwed.
Exactly. I mean, it comes down to the pistons, the piston rings, all that stuff that they have to have there for that assembly.
And then when they get assembled, if they don't have truck drivers or rail cars to get it to the next,
to get it
thing
out,
down the chain, then it's delayed. I mean, like some of these cars are sitting in shipment yards for months, like 8 months. Because they can't get truck drivers.
Well, we had a shipment coming FedEx for Brent before his Alaska trip that he paid 2 day shipping. It should have been here. And then he was like, hey man, like, can you run to Steamboat and grab this for me? Because it sounds like it's sitting there. So I run up there and grab it for him because it sat there all week and we're watching it. Like, it should be here. It should be here. And it never came. And that Friday I drove up there to snag it for him. And what they told me was one of their drivers was on vacation for the whole week and the other one quit on Monday. So they didn't deliver our packages to our town from the depot all week. So is that something that can happen, on those larger shipments? I'm sure it can,
I mean, it's insane. It's really unfortunate.
But
we got to get back to how we were pre-COVID, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
Exactly. And it's from a manufacturing point that we got to get back to pre-COVID, I feel like, I mean, that's where things were a well-oiled machine. I feel like at least stuff could make it on time and you could get help and you could get things assembled, but
not now.
That doesn't seem that way. So, but I think that kind of pretty well covers the dirty truth behind the Polaris recalls. How do you feel?
I agree. I think we wrap her up here. And if you guys have any inside information or if you think something completely different, let us know because we're just interested.
Yeah.
We have nothing else to think about this time of year when it comes to snowmobiles, so we'll talk about recalls.
Yep. And
just like so many other people on social media.
Yeah, and exactly. If somebody knows something or if there's somebody that's willing to come on and talk to us about it or whatever, we are open to that. Like if you have any information. Once again, this was just an idea that popped in our head. We love Polaris, and this is something that we're all dealing with, and we just wanted to chat about and get what your guys' opinion is and give you something to listen to maybe while you're heading to Haydays. So enjoy. Love you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Later.